Hello, business owners. How are you doing? This is Daryl Guberman and my fellow citizens. I'm the CEO of GUBERMAN-PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. I have assisted companies in manufacturing quality and also quality certification, all derivatives for the last 11 years. Business owners, my fellow citizens, my great customers, and those prospective customers who are on the fence about getting ISO certified or registered. I have a very special person here today. His name is Phil Piqueira, and here he is, appointed as ANSI chair starting on January 1st, 2021. So I guess this January is his term of duty, just 1 year. Let me just read you what it says here. And the title of this, Phil, is Phil Piqueira, appointed chair of ANSI Board of Directors. Does he condone Russ Chaney's half a nut? Fuck you. I know it sounds bad, doesn't it? I'm sure you've already heard it. Being in your level, you already know who I am. So we're going to continue. And I'm going to tell the people out there because they don't know the history behind this. You probably don't know the history either. So you're going to sit down and we shall entertain you to the nightmare that's called quality under the guise of quality certification and voluntary consensus standards. Phil Piqueira, Vice President of Global Standards for United Underwriters Laboratories, has been appointed chair of American National Standards Institute, ANSI. Phil will begin a 1-year term of duty from January 1st, 2021, succeeding Russ Chaney, CEO at International Association of Plumbing and Mechanical Officials. In the role, Phil will oversee governance of the issues, properties, and affairs of ANSI, pursuit of its mission to enhance the global competitiveness of American businesses and quality of life in the United States through the promotion and facilitation of voluntary consensus standards and conformity assessment systems. Mind you this, at this time, Phil was at $375,000, okay, sitting on ANSI's board. I showed you that ANSI, the UL, also is a member sitting on ANSI's board. So who else would be there? Phil Piqueira. Also, on the tax form, I know it is 2016, but regardless, because of me, they changed the terminology on the 990 form. It used to be royalty payment. Royalty payment. And we broke it down, and this is how many hours a week, if you really thought about it, that Phil works. I don't think he puts in a 40-hour a week at ANSI at all, business owners and my fellow citizens. And there we go. Yes. Also, it's what I want to show you here, business owners, because I think it's very important to show you this. And here we go. Let's bring him out, though. This is important because I want him to hear this, because he is, he's the standards for underwriters laboratories. Suing underwriter laboratories in a product liability case. There are very few monopolies in the United States. Underwriters Laboratory, UL, is one of them. Many people believe that UL is some sort of governmental entity, but in fact, it is a private money-making company. UL receives millions of dollars in fees and employs directly or indirectly hundreds, if not thousands, of people all over the world. In some states and jurisdictions, it is illegal to sell electrical items without a UL inspection and seal of approval. Even where it is not legal as a practical matter, no distributor or retailer will sell an electrical item without a UL logo. So we wanted to get that through, business owners, and let you see that, let you see what he makes as a volunteer. And yes, it is a volunteer position that you have on ANSI's board. That's a hell of a salary for being a volunteer, isn't it? And let's continue. I read when I submitted my 54-page document, because in June I saw that ANSI was having nomination elections, so I submitted a 54-page document. This is it. This is the actual booklet that they received. They received it in electronic PDF fashion, and they received it in spiral bound fashion. Okay? So I sent that to them. On top of that, I had to answer 9 questions to actually let them know how I'm going to assist in affecting the global competitiveness of ANSI, bringing their initiatives to the forefront, okay? What I discovered is on the bottom of the questions, after I answered them, and on the bottom of the questions, it said this: the committee appreciates your interest in serving in an ANSI leadership position and your willingness to provide us this additional information. Sincerely, Russ Chaney, Chair of the ANSI Nominating Committee 2022. And what I did was I read, because if he's the nominating chairman, I know how life is. He called me up in 2019. And I want to get to it, though. I don't want to confuse you. But I did read violations of the Code of Conduct of ANSI and Code of Conduct applicable to participants of ANSI. So I did that. I read those backwards, forwards, and sideways. I think I know more than their lawyer. So, Phil, let me just tell you this, if I may. In 2013, I gave a speech at the American Society for Quality, and there was a Region 3 director, Dave Levy. And this was his actual verbiage back to me. And by the way, ANSI owned ANAB, the American National Crediting Board, 50%. And ANSI owned ANAB 50%. ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, the American Society for Quality, owned ANAB, the American National Crediting Board, 50-50. Well, Dave Levy was sent there to discredit me. Phil, if you don't know, well, now you know. And this is what he said. Yes, support you, sir. I don't need to hold that there. You already saw it. What happened also, Phil, if I may, let me bring you back out. Phil, what happened also is Randy Doughtery. Randy Doughtery wrote us a letter, okay, an email. Let me put you down here, you can hear me and see it. Randy Doughtery wrote me a letter asking me to join either, it's all voluntary, join either ANAB or IAF or both in 2016. But I, as a proud American, okay, let me hold this there for a second. Phil, I, as a proud American, how could I join ANAB or the IAF when the IAF was handed over to a communist Chinese national, Zhao Jinwu, in 2015. And he stayed there from the 15 to the 2021. For 6 years, you had communist China watching over companies like Lockheed Martin, watching over Boeing, watching over Pfizer, watching over Johnson & Johnson, watching over GE, okay, aerospace, watching over UL. You sit there, watching over all of you. So many corporations, so little time. So many federal agencies as well, the DOD, the FTC, the FBI, the FDA, FAA, all these alphabet soup organizations and government agencies. So how could I? I would not do that. Let me continue and tell you this, if I may, is that there was a Pamela Sale who, under deposition, Phil, said this, okay? She said that from one laboratory to another, there are variances. So I looked into it, and I found out there were more than variances. You have so many different laboratories sitting on ANSI, and they all have problems under accredited certification and voluntary consensus standards. So let's continue on. What happened is, here you go, Phil, you probably already know this. ANSI, and this is for the people out there. ANSI is a private, not-for-profit, non-governmental entity. It's not related to our government, though it sounds that way. And it has both federal agencies and corporations on board. And I'm sure you don't know this, Phil, because if you do, you should be fired. Here it is. In 2015, and the reason why we do it, because history repeats itself, and when it repeats, it's many times, if you try to forget about it, it gets worse. Randy Doughtery, the vice president of, not the vice president of ANAB anymore, he was, but he was the technical advisor for ANAB. He sat on the IAF as the treasurer, the International Accreditation Forum, which is incorporated in Delaware. And he also sat as the principal on the IAF-990 tax form. He handed over leadership to this communist Chinese national, Zhao Jinwu, who is also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services, which did the Bio Level 4 lab certified at, I guess, 17025 for laboratory certification in Wuhan, China, the suspect lab. Okay, we go back. He also has the Chinese, Zhao Jinwu also has the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7, which mandates espionage. You also have the fact that ANSI had taken over the control of ANAB in 2018. You have federal agencies and corporations. Sitting on the IAF, and this, my heart goes out for the people of these countries, not the politicians. You have the factor of Iran and Pakistan that sit as equivalents to ANAB on the IAF board. Okay, they are IAF MLAs, which are equivalent in accreditation to ANAB. You have Pakistan, which harbored Osama bin Laden. By the way, do you approve and condone that? And by the way, ANSI also sits by Pakistan and Iran. Do you have any moral compass there, my friend? Let's continue on. So you also have Iran, who said that they harbored some of the terrorists of 9/11. And I say this emphatically to the people of those countries, Pakistan and Iran. It's not you. It's the ones who guide you. And they're not guiding you. They're misguided. We'll continue on. Randy Doughtery wrote how great it was about Zhao Jinwu. How great it was that he's been involved with our quality since 1994. And he was promoted to chairman of the IAF in 2015 while he was the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services in Beijing, China. And here's Randy. Randy talking about equivalency to ANAB as an IAF MLA. You have Iran and Pakistan, and at one time, North Korea and Libya were on board, but they got their certificate taken away because of lack of payment. And by the way, Randy was instrumental in getting North Korea on board. I've got the documentation. I don't make it up, Phil. I would not say it if I didn't mean it. And here they are. And I'm going to show you this because this is very interesting. And here you go. Here is ANSI and ANAB. And here is Iran and Pakistan. They're sitting together. Also, our biggest military contractor, Lockheed, is sitting on there. So you also have 10 different registrars in China that can issue an ANAB accredited certificate. What makes matters disastrous, business owners? We heard several months ago that Anthony Fauci from NIH said, I don't know anything about gain of function. I don't know anything, to Senator Rand Paul. Well, I will say this. It's a quality term. He's bullshitting. Because here is an article that came out of a Chinese document, a booklet that we happen to look into. This is May 2017. I'm going to hold it there, and it says, this workshop, the second one of the United States and China, in Wuhan, China, no less. This workshop will focus on 5 sessions, gain of function research, gene editing, targeting, and delivery, and other novel viruses. Here is a picture of Zhao Jinwu in the laboratory handing over a certificate. At the time, again, Phil, he was the chairman of the International Accreditation Forum Incorporated in Delaware, USA. And he was also chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services. We pulled this, and we have a date stamp on it, so it is factual, so that if anybody wants to say I'm lying, let them go to town. We did a picture of this website that said that ANSI ANAB are underwriters for the International Laboratory Accreditation and the International Accreditation Forum. So what are you saying, Phil? And you know what an underwriter is? An underwriter is any party that evaluates and assumes another party's fee for a risk. So what we did was this. We pulled apart and exposed the factor of A2LA. And A2LA is an accreditation body. It's an accreditation body for laboratory accreditation. And we exposed that. And what happened is, there's a woman, her name is Ashley Morton, who worked or still works for A2LA. And she wrote beneath the video, Phil, she wrote this. I'll read it to you. Ashley Morton. A2LA does not sit on ANSI. They are both American accreditation bodies with equal standing. Well, that's what she said. A2LA doesn't do that. Well, it does. I showed it 1,000 times. I don't need to show it again. It's on many, many of my videos. So she said that, and I reported back, and I did another video, Phil, about the situation that she didn't know. She needed to be educated, because in quality, they don't want you to know that China had control over the International Accreditation Forum, a communist national, okay? You've got to be kidding me. In fact, in Connecticut, just to let you know, when Lockheed was buying Sikorsky, it said in an article, it said, with China's okay, Lockheed closes in on the purchase of Sikorsky aircraft, when in fact they got hacked in 2009 by China. In 2012, a division of United Technologies, Sikorsky aircraft got hacked by China, and you're still smiling about it. So anyway, I didn't know this guy, by the way, Phil. I didn't know him at all, but this guy, Russ Chaney, that was on the 25th of July that I put that out. On the 26th, which was a Friday, I get a call from this number. This is Russ Chaney's number, Phil, and I want you to hear this because it is absolutely abominable. And here it is, Phil. Please come over here and listen to it. You're the chairman now, right? And Chaney is the chairman, Russ Chaney is the chairman of the nominating committee. So here's what he said to me. Do you think he's going to elect me or put a good word in?
This is Russ Chaney. Please leave a message and I'll return your call as soon as possible. Record your...
Yes, he said that. He said, have a nut, fuck you. You heard that. So what we did, Phil, is we did the right, proper thing. All right, I told you I read the violations of the Code of Conduct and also Code of Conduct application to participants and general principles. I read that. So I sent it to your boss, wrote Joe Bathia. And I know you're looking at this saying, that's terrible, Daryl. That's so unprofessional. Unprofessional? Boeing in 2002 put out a procedure, or actually a memo, to all their suppliers. They said, well, if you have an AS9100 certificate, your quality is great. And they started to chop their quality down. Very rarely will they send out a bunch of guys to go and gals to go inspect, source inspect some of their customers. In fact, we have a problematic issue with some of the ISO organizations, the registrars that were, going in and evaluating Boeing suppliers with some discrepancies. If you want, I'll gladly send that to you as well. We'll try to put it in the body of the this video. Well, here it is. Boeing puts out this memo. Also, Boeing sits on ANSI right over by the FAA, who succeeded inspection to them in 2009. And basically, Boeing designed the 737 MAX, designed, developed, built, and did flight worthiness. And probably Boeing and the FAA just initialed it and said, see ya, that's great. Boeing has had many recalls. Boeing was also caught falsifying documentation, just like their counterpart, Kobe Steel. We have those documents. We're not telling it just out of the blue, Phil. We're telling you facts, okay? Another thing is this. Boeing has major issues with their 777 and 787, okay? Under the guise, in fact, on their supplier portal, they say must be ANSI, ANAB, or internationally equivalent. So, hey, Phil, where are you? So the international equivalent, per Randy Doughtery's letter to us, means that Iran and Pakistan could theoretically come in there and do an audit because they're equivalent to ANAB. Isn't that tender? Another thing is this, Phil, in medical. Pfizer skipped quality processes and standards to push the COVID vaccine out. So did Johnson & Johnson. In fact, Johnson & Johnson had a recall of 60 million doses of COVID injection. You also have our Abbott Pharmaceutical, which sits on ANSI as well. All of them sit on ANSI, had a recall of contaminated baby formula, if you remember this past summer. Oh, isn't that a tender moment? And then you have recalls in automotives, electronics, and all that, all under the guise of quality certification and voluntary consensus standards. So I'm going to ask you this, if I may. In fact, you know what? We're going to so I sent the letter. Let me just bring you out. Phil, I sent the letter to Joe with the recording. And I sent it to this guy. You know him. You probably have cocktails with him. And, drinking your martinis and smoking a cigar. Maybe even going golfing with him. Who the hell knows? But this is what he said. All right? I want you to see this, Phil. Because you know something? I'm going to bring you back in when I'm playing this for both of you. Because this is what he said. Here it is.
This is Russ Chaney. Please leave a message and I'll return your call as soon as possible. Record your...
Phil, doesn't that sound like half a nut fuck you? Hold on a sec. He stinks. Oh, he really does. Hold on. Let me play it again with Russ here. And actually, let me show you what he said. Here it is. After analysis, we were unable to identify any harassing or objectionable content in the brief audio file provided. Well, let's play it again.
This is Russ Chaney. Please leave a message and I'll return your call as soon as possible. Record your...
Phil, so you, as the chairman now, Phil Piqueira, appointed chair of ANSI Board of Directors, do you condone Russ Chaney's half-a-nut fuck you? I guess not only do you, but it looks like the board members do, the membership does, and also the government. So let me show you these, because as you know, and I read again the violations of Code of Conduct application to participants, that Russ Chaney is a representation of ANSI. So when I say in this next placard that ANSI says half a nut fuck you, it is true. And let me bring the lawyer out, because I don't know if he knows it, because he didn't hear anything disturbing about half a nut fuck you. So would you agree with that, Jameson Carroll? Are you going to say, after analysis, we do not understand why you put half a nut fuck you for ANSI? Well, listen, I will tell you this. Go back and read violations of the Code of Conduct and Code of Conduct applications to participants. I would ask that you contact me, 203-556-1493, because your letters are mute, okay? And, by the way, I understand that because of ANSI's position that you deal with the American Bar Association. Well, isn't that a terrible twist of words? And also, I understand the American Bar Association is basically designated one of the worst human rights areas, like China. They have a department over there. Isn't that nice? What's that say? And here it is. Phil, take a good look at this. You cannot make this up, Phil. You cannot make this up. And this is the next one. And I'm going to leave it here, business owners. The reason why we have done this is because Phil's the new camper on the block. He should know, and I'm sure he does. I'm sure he knows me. But all because Russ Chaney was full of himself is this happening. I will see you guys in Washington, by the way, and I look forward to it. My telephone number is 203-556-1493. Phil, I would suggest if you are truly the chairman, you'll contact me, because Joe Bathia won't. Terrible. He is no leader. It appears that he and Mr. Jameson condone this. Do you? Again, 203-556-1493 or Daryl, DARYL, TQRS @yahoo.com. And I thank you. and I'm sorry for the length of this, but you have to know the history. I didn't get into everything I could, but I assure you that we've got all the data. I thank you.